All right, we are live. We're going to give just a few minutes for some folks to come into the room. Come on into the room.
Oh,
You
yeah.
were old school though.
Yes.
I went old school. I
yes,
went old
sir.
school.
Yes, sir.
I went old school.
Yes, indeed.
I
Nothing wrong with
did.
that.
No. Got to remember that stuff.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that of course I can't like what did I just do? Why does the least technical person always fool with their screen right before we go live? I do it every single time.
This is
And
true.
then
Stop
I'm
doing
on here like, oh my gosh, I can't
Something's
find
wrong.
stuff.
Yeah, you can't be doing that, girl.
No, I
So
know it's horrible.
let me go into the page, make sure that I can share with everyone, and then we will
Absolutely.
get started.
I'm
And
so excited.
we
It's
are.
good to be back on. This seemed like the longest week ever.
It,
Yes.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So,
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and get started for all of our great folks here. So, welcome, ladies, to another Kingdom Kinesis episode where we inspire women to action through partnership with God, partnership with self, and partnership with community. We go live Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. That is 2 p.m. East Central Time. And thanks for joining us. And
yeah.
we have two Katrinas in the house today.
I know.
I just want to
Two.
we got two Katrinas in the house. And Katrina from Mass is going to introduce to us Katrina in Charleston.
That's right. That's right. You know, guys or ladies, we know that advancing the kingdom doesn't necessarily take a specific form, such as a fixed career or a fixed or a career path. Let's just say that. So we have therapist and business owner Katrina Bell in the house today. She definitely knows this. And she's here to share how she merges her interests, passions, and skill set to advance the kingdom, making the world a better place. So without further ado, Katrina, thank you so much for joining Kingdom Kinesis today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. Please, let's get this show on the road. Tell us about yourself.
All right. So I'm Katrina Bell from Charleston, South Carolina, born and raised all my life, never left. Crazy, right? I am a licensed professional counselor, and I've been a therapist for, licensed since 2010.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and before then, I was working in the schools as a master's level counselor. So I graduated in 2005 with my master's degree. So that's been my life professionally, kind of. That's the start. But who I am, I am interesting. I have a lot going on. I love to have a lot going on, but I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a boss. That's what I normally tell people when they ask me that question. Don't like to be put in boxes, so guess what? You figure it out, right?
Great.
So born and bred here, still here. Now I am working in private practice. Did most of my years in the education system as a school counselor, contracted with the district, still doing mental health services, but not necessarily like the typical school counselor. So I have a lot of experience with children, mainly middle and high school students. That's who I like. And college students is a new kind of area that I'm in right now, because most of my students that I had are like adults and like buying houses and stuff.
They grow up real fast, don't they?
Oh yeah. So me as a person, I say mom, wife, boss. This is the life that I'm living. I own two businesses, the private practice and the crafting business, which is more of my passion that turned into a business ever before private practice was even a thing for me. So I've been doing that since 2013. There's crafting.
Wow.
And just a quick it started because I didn't want to keep paying people to put monograms on my daughter's stuff.
Okay,
That is how it started.
Wow. Wow. I love that because you are the third person I've spoken to this week that has developed a business out of meeting their own need. So we always talk about supply and demand. I have a good friend who discovered she's an artist and she has the ability to paint. I looked at her stuff. It's amazing. I can't believe it. And then, I was thinking, how long have you done this? And she said, I needed paintings for my wall. And I said, well, what, you decided to just buy some canvas and paint? And she said, yeah, but I didn't know I was an artist. And I said, well, your spirit must have known, because there's no way if I need paint, paintings for my wall, that I'm going to go buy canvas and paint and tell myself I'm going to make some art. And I mean, she did it. I already told her, I said, I need this particular painting. You just tell me how much, we'll work it out. And so that's amazing how you met your own need and you had the talent to do it.
Yeah, crazy. Like private practice was always like, I want to say an end goal, but I always knew I was heading there. That was always a goal that I was going. It was always on the list, right?
Right.
But the crafting came because I literally just got tired of paying for those monograms. I was like, by the time I paid for 5 of these things, I could have bought the machine, learned how to do it myself, and just done it all. And I had already been making wreaths. Anyway, I'd already been doing that. My mom did that, and I kind of learned that from her. And my mom did weddings, floor arranging, all that. And I would just be there helping her because I had to. And who would have known that this would be what it became?
Wow. That's interesting.
That is very interesting. I'm glad that you mentioned that, you do things out of necessity, and that's how a lot of businesses are created. That's how I did my own business. It's like, okay, I need to do this, and so I can do this, and so I'm going to do it. So I love the fact that you even mentioned that, because that's 99% of the time is based out of a need.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's even better when your business meets the need that you had.
Yeah, that part.
You're like, I have a need, so I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna make this happen. I think, I can say I don't mind moving my dollars. So if I have a need and you have a skill, I usually call you and be like, I need your skill.
Right.
More often than not, that's how I operate. But still, I think it's amazing how people are discovering more of themselves, more of their gifts, more of their talents. And that is actually causing some type of transition into business by meeting a need that they have. So I love that. I thank you for sharing that, because I didn't know.
Yep, that's it.
So I have a question, and I have a lot of friends who are in the whole therapist, social work community or whatever, and they all do it for different reasons. So, how did you find yourself to be a therapist, and then you walk into this teletherapy, and then you decided to establish this online mental health community? Like, what transpired that you're like, this is what I want to do? Well, were you call, were you led, did God tap you on the shoulder and say, I need you to do this? Like, kind of walking through that. That part.
So the goal, if I go back to when I stepped foot on the College of Charleston campus, when I stepped on the College of Charleston campus, the goal was to be a nurse. That was the goal. Because don't ask me why, because somebody told me that they make a lot of money and you always have a job. That literally was it. So you get into a few classes at the College of Charleston. Those biology classes are no joke.
I've heard.
So I did class, and it was just kind of like, yeah, you might need to figure something else out. And I've always loved children. Never thought that I would be a mom. Like, I never was that was never on the books or anything like that. I just like working with kids, and I had already been doing that. So working with kids, and then realizing like, dang, you're good at helping people too. So the major change came, and I was like majoring in psychology. Didn't really like that because in my mind, the body as a whole and things work together. So switched my major to sociology because also in my mind, outside things affect how people grow in life. So I switched my major to that, minored in health. because I knew that I wanted to have that health piece. Graduate, go to grad school. I was working at Wings for Kids after school program. That's why I was working. And then I got a job with the school district directing one of their after school programs. No problem. But you got to think about the kind of kids that are usually in those programs.
Right.
And they come with a lot of stuff.
Right.
And you have to be ready to deal with that kind of stuff.
You're right.
So I'm in grad school, and it was made very apparent to me that, okay, you're supposed to be here doing this stuff, but this is not your population. It was really clear.
Oh.
So it really was kind of like, okay, push through, and then whatever is next is going to be revealed. Well, I graduated, and whatever was next was revealed, like literally the next week.
Wow.
It was a job interview at an agency that was a community agency that had an in-school program for emotionally disabled children. It also housed homeless shelters. It also had like independent living, like homes and things like that. So group homes.
Right.
So one agency housed all of these programs. Well, it also housed a summer program. And as a part of the job, I was going to be a part of the summer program. And I was going to fly out to Nashville, Tennessee, like the next week. And I was like, oh, Lord, okay. Well, I get to the program. The program is called Freedom Schools Children's Defense Fund, puts it on every summer, and it's in different cities. So that became the beginning of, where are you headed? Because the second part of my job, which I knew, was to be a counselor in that school. Well, I just didn't know. Little did I know that this whole summer process was preparing me for facing those middle school children, the middle school age kids that I work with who had these emotional issues. And it was them, families. A lot of them would be in that program. It was a lot for 5 years, 4.5 years. I worked there, and it was housed in the alternative school, one of the alternative schools for the school district in Charleston. So that was like the setup, like, and it was like, okay, if I can get through these years, I'll be okay. I didn't know I just was going with it. Next thing I know, different agency. I move on. The children are regular kids, but they came with all kinds of outside things. And basically, it was to make sure they stayed in school and graduate. So I got more of a social work thing there. It was good watching my kids graduate, but like you said, that tap on the shoulder came again. Like, okay, this is good, because by this time I'm married, I have my daughter, life has changed. And it's like, what's next? What is next? That's when I knew that private practice was closer than I could smell it, but I didn't know how close it was going to be. So in 2013, that's when I first started part-time while still working on that job in the schools. And little did I know that fast forward to, I took a break to take another job to work on the corporate side, kind of insurance type stuff, for 2.5 years. So I did private practice till 2016. I took a break. And nobody could have told me that in 2019 that I would be full-time, walking off my corporate job, literally. Nobody could have told me that would have happened. And it really went from like I'm going to get back into it. I'll start doing it part-time again. Little did I know that January of 2019 started the ball rolling for it to be like, oh no. Because initially, when I took this position in group practice, it was like, oh, I'm just going to do part-time. I did part-time for 2 weeks. So my first day on back private practice, I after I was done, I had 3 clients. After I was done, I called my boss and told him, just so you know, you're about to get an email, and I want to give you a heads up of what the email is about. And I put my 2 weeks in.
Whoa.
It was literally a walk up. Like literally, like there was no. I wasn't even thinking like the healthcare. Like, you know, of course I talked it over with my husband, and he kind of was like, I mean, you could go on my plan, but it was like, I'm just gonna do it.
Private practice, was it calling you, Trina,
Oh
or
God, yes.
yeah, it was calling you. So and so you said something very interesting. Back in I think it was towards in college or right after college, you said you didn't know what you're gonna do, but it was gonna be revealed. You just said it will be revealed. I'm just gonna keep taking some steps forward, and then you received the revelation, but you were open to that process. But you were very honest with yourself when you said this initial population I thought I'd be working with, this was not it for me. And, you know, sometimes it can be very difficult for us to get to a point where we say what we thought we wanted, we no longer want.
Right.
And it's not working for us because we're afraid, or maybe we told the world that this was the thing we wanted to do, right? And then when we really experience it, it's just not what we're called to do. It's not what we're assigned to do. That's not the group of people that we're called to, you know, serve directly. So what fears did you overcome throughout your process to get to where you are now? Especially to just say, look, I'm walking off of this corporate position, this corporate job. You know, I'm going to say, thank you. I appreciate it, but I'm going to private practice here. So what fears did you overcome throughout your process?
So right up off top, when I made that decision and put those 2 weeks in, the only thing I kind of had in place was, okay, I know I'll have health insurance. That was literally it. Nothing else was guaranteed at that point. And you know, so the group practice, they do like the scheduling, and they do marketing, and they find the clients for you. And they were like, oh no, you have clients, don't worry. And I'm just, okay, well, I'll have clients. The only thing that was for certain was that I had people scheduled and I had health insurance. I was scared because this job is very risky because people will cancel or not show up. And if they don't show up, you don't get paid. Like, that's just how it works. So that fear right there, the fear of not knowing if, when, how bills could get paid if things didn't happen right with my clients. Well, that didn't happen, right? So that it just was like that fear. But once I kind of got through the first month, it was like, okay, I think I'm gonna be okay. So the fear of the unknown for me is always a fear because I'm a little bit of a control freak.
Oh.
Hence the reason why I'm doing what I do, because I think that has something to do with it too. And anytime that I'm not certain of kind of how it's going to go, or if it looks like it's not going to go right, I don't back out. Ooh. But I get scared and I get anxious, and then it becomes a what if, or what would have happened had you done this. Definitely the fear of the unknown, the fear of the stuff with my family, like even going back to when I was like, oh, I'm not going to be a nurse again, I'm going to be a counselor.
Right.
What do you mean you're going to be a counselor? I remember one aunt specifically saying, they don't make money.
Oh.
And I was like, it's not about the money for me. Like, at that point, it was just me. I was like, I'll make enough money for myself. I was already working 3 or 4 jobs, whatever. Just do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do
it. And I just did, but it wasn't about the money. And I didn't know, like, I was good up until when I left that first agency to go to the next agency and there was a pay increase. I was like, dang, like, oh, people, well, all right. Well, because I didn't know.
Right. So basically, it sounds like from the beginning to where we are now with, you know, fear of the unknown, it sounds like what happened was you said the revelation would come, right? It would be revealed. You got the revelation, you took those affirmative steps, you moved forward. But then when you got, you know, a decade later, right? 10 years later, when there was an unknown, right? You said God tapped you on the shoulder, he got your attention, and he pointed you in the right direction, and your heart was really just being pulled and drawn. Your person was being drawn to private practice, and you said that you're just like, okay, I'm just going to do it. It sounds like you stood firm and you faced the fear. You didn't back out or decide to put down your project or to not move forward. So it sounds like you stood firm, you continued to do the work, and then you kept moving forward, because it had you stopped because of the fear, you wouldn't have seen the clients that were going to not only be scheduled, but show up so you could get paid. And they continue to show up to this day. And so I think that's extremely important, because part of the thing, like when you show up to war, if you run, you never know whether or not you could win.
Right.
You have no advance whether or not you could defeat the enemy, but you have to stand firm, show up, and do the work, especially when God has already given you the revelation and pointed you down a path.
Right.
So that's good. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Old Testament again. I'm in old school mode today. So you mentioned, that God had given you, the revelation, and the thing is, all the guests that we've talked to thus far have the similar story, and all I can remember is when God told Abraham to go.
Right.
And he's like, you go, and then when you start going, then I'll tell you where you're going.
Right.
And so, and that kind of ties in loosely with our three, what we call P's of partnership. We got partnership with God, which was definitely what that was. It's like if you don't partnership with God, then when God tells you to go, I won't give you the where you're going until you start going. You won't know where you're going or how to get there. But then we have partnering with self, and then we have this partnering with community. Right. So, this kind of taking those three principles: partner self, partner God, partner with community. How can you kind of point and how these
the principles
have they been in your life?
So
that's kind of my question. It's like, these three principles, can you see them manifested in your life, from then until now?
Absolutely. I don't think that, and this is just a belief, nothing happens just because.
Right.
There's always some kind of intent.
Say it again.
I feel like my life has been full of purpose. Really full of purpose, and everything that has happened, every high, every low, has happened because it's supposed to. And it's made me the person that I am right now. And if I really look very close at it, that partnership with God, let me tell y'all.
Okay, she got the hand up. She got the hand up, y'all.
Because if I look at statistics and like the things that I've been through in life, I shouldn't be right here. It shouldn't be. I shouldn't be in this seat. And about 3 years ago, my spiritual journey got uprooted and was real different, because they went from tradition of the things that I knew, and that wasn't sitting right with me, and it just was not filling my needs the way I needed it, and I had to pull back and really take a hard look. But last year, interestingly enough, things lined up the way they needed to, and then when I heard go, it was easy to just go. Because I had that belief, and I had like that, firm foundation that had been planted in from a child. And I feel like now I'm an adult spiritually. I felt like I still was a child a little bit spiritually, because I was still holding on to things that I was taught as a child, but I hadn't matured like in the spiritual journey. But like that's still a work in progress. But I feel like that is a major part of who I am, and who I am as a practitioner, who I am as a wife and a mom. And Christina, you said manifestation. I use that word every day with my clients.
Really?
Because some of them, it's not even about the spiritual piece for the ones who don't believe. It's just kind of like, listen, manifest it. Like I actually have a shirt that I made, and it says like, it's your life, manifest it. Like
manifest it.
Like how hard is it? It is hard, but I believe in manifestation, and I believe that if your intent and you have a purpose, then everything else will just line up. And that's, I don't know, that's just God to me. That's how I see it. And then As I
a
see
whole
it.
lot to unpack right there. I'm gonna
So
let you.
it sounds like, Katrina, what you're saying is, and honestly, and you've always been like a real chill, just kind of relaxed person, always been that way. So it sounds like you just open yourself up to the process of growing constantly, and you do that by saying, I surrender myself to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that you decided that traditional religion just wasn't sitting well with you, and you decided to take a step back, that's huge, because so many people are married to tradition or the beliefs of their fathers and forefathers, when there are scriptures where Christ clearly talks about, look, I came to uproot your traditions. All right, you need to put that to the side, and I really need you to get focused on me and relationship, and learn what being in relationship with me is like, so you can be an example of who I am. But it sounds like you made that decision to partner with yourself, and you've been partnering with yourself for decades now.
Long time.
By making that decision to open yourself up to growth, to evaluating what's working in your life, what's not, and the changes that need to be made. And in terms of your partnership with community, I heard you you kind of threw it in there because this is all about you. But I like how you said, look, I talked to my husband real quick about this journey and what I'm considering, and we had this conversation, and he said, I have your back. Basically, you can go ahead, girl. I support you. And then on the other side, when you were just starting out in your journey, you did have some people in your community who said, why you want to do that? They were the naysayers. And so you decided to, you had to make a decision when you encountered naysayers to partner with self and God. And then when you did have the opportunity to encounter someone who was part of your community that encouraged you, you held on to that. You didn't just say, my husband didn't know what he was talking about, whatever. I didn't even have the conversation with my husband. He can't understand what I'm talking about. He's not a wife. He's not a mom. He's not this. You decided to use your relationship and be in community with him, not just as your husband, but as your brother in Christ, to help move you forward. So that's important as well. So thank you for sharing those. That's very candid. We appreciate that.
That's a good point, Katrina. In mass. That's a great point. That's a great point. You don't think about it a lot of times that your spouse is part of your community. It's just like, okay, yeah, well, but sometimes people don't think about that. It kind of goes over their head.
Yeah, we a team up in here.
All right.
All of us. Child and the dog. Everybody is a team.
Everybody's a team.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
That's awesome. Okay, Katrina.
That made me feel good.
So, what advice, Trina, what advice do you have for women who struggle to embrace, the reality that their skills, their interests and passions can be combined to pursue what they've been called to do? Because I need to back up real quick, because we didn't touch upon how the online community started and how your crafting business and your therapy, how it all comes together. But we need to talk about that real quick, like how it's all interconnected, because it's all intertwined. So let's talk about that real quick, and then you can drop some knowledge and wisdom for us.
Yeah. So what happened was, when I decided to go in private practice, I'm already doing this, the crafting. Okay. One day I had a client ask, do you make journals? Like, do you have any journals? And I had like notebooks. And she was like, okay. And I was talking to like a fellow crafter who was like, I'm shocked that you don't even have journals. Like, why haven't you made them yet? And I was like, I don't know. I have all the stuff. Still didn't move on it. What actually ended up happening first was, because I have on one of my shirts today.
I was looking at that, by the way. Keep going.
Yep, being a therapist is dope. So they had the words like in a crafting group, and it had like all kinds of things. Being this is dope. Being a mom, being Black, being whatever was dope. And literally it clicked. Being a therapist is dope. Like, yeah, we some dope people. Because I was like, yeah, I'm dope. So this was like one of the first things that I did. I did a shirt like this and posted it on my Facebook page. And oh Lord, you would have thought that I came out with like the brand new pair of Jordans or something. But it was ridiculous. That was last summer, the amount of people who were like, oh my gosh, and then people saying, can you change it? Can you do this? Yeah, we can do different occupation. So that was the first little, okay, I can now craft things specifically towards like the mental health community. This is about to be epic.
I love how she just like constantly peps herself. She's like, this is about to be epic. Go ahead.
And so cool collectively.
I love it. She's like, this is about to be epic.
Yeah. If I don't talk myself up, then who is, right?
All right. Yes. Partner with self.
And that's just it. And that's really who I am. It's not a show. It is 100% who I am. So I started with like different shirts. Same crafter friend comes and is like, when are you going to do those journals? And I was like, girl, I don't know. I'm going to get to them. Well, September of last year, I broke my ankle. So that did not happen. So that was like in August, she asked. And I said, I know what I said. I said to her, when my daughter's birthday was over, was September 23rd, I said, I'm going to focus on that because I'm getting stuff together for her birthday party. Well, on September 23rd, 2019, I fell and broke my ankle. Mm-hmm. So that put me down. But while I was down, I got a notebook and I literally started like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to look. I'm going to do this first and I'm going to do the first. And I drafted the plan that was going to begin to create the journals and the notebooks and the things like that. Well, beginning of the year, well, actually, no. End of the year, the group practice was like, okay, we want everybody to have their own LLC, which was always going to be a thing. So I'm like, oh, I have to come up with a name. Oh, Lord, I don't know. I could do my first name. I'm a little too jazzy for that. So I need to come up with a name. So I was like, I already had a page on Instagram that was Life as an LPC. And I would just post like quotes, encouraging quotes and things about therapy. And I was just posting that. So one night, middle of the night, the name Life with KB came. Got up, I wrote it down. The next day, I changed the Instagram page to that. Made a Facebook page. Just made it. I didn't do any. I just made it.
Right.
And then I started posting. And then people started contacting me and saying, would you post about this? Or what do you think about this? And it was born in like January 1st. I don't know if it was the 1st, but early January, it went live. And now, I got like people following me, people inboxing me, asking questions, people looking for therapy.
Wow.
So that's that.
So
in a nutshell.
Basically, what you're trying to say is, one, we always talk about embracing the shift, right? Because Kingdom Kinesis was born last year, but we took off this year. This is when we really launched and we embraced we call it the COVID shift, because we really believe that this downtime is time that God has given us to really reflect on ourselves, to make moves, to grow. Hopefully relationships will be revisited and restored. This is just a time for his people to really use it wisely and to move forward. And you embrace the shift when you broke your ankle there, because you had downtime and you could have chosen like just do Netflix, whatever, all day, but you made a choice. You made a choice to sit down because you were forced to sit for whatever reason. You were forced to sit, and I'm glad that you're healed now, that you're good. But during that time, you decided to embrace that shift, and you said, "Look, I have the time. There's no excuse." It sounds like in your mind, you're like, "There's no reason for me not to sit down and draft this plan for these journals." And then, in terms of launching the online community, everything sounds like it's always been a celebration of self, or meeting a need that you had, or answering someone's call for you, or meeting their need. And literally, you're doing it by celebrating the profession that you enjoyed, which was being a therapist, writing the journals. You must care enough about your clients to say, okay, you have a request, I can make this happen. And you know what? I enjoy crafting anyway. So why not craft around what I enjoy doing? And then with the online community, just encouraging people to live their healthiest lives in terms of their mental wellness, and just wanting to encourage them and using social media to do that. It didn't take much. It took time. It took focus, but it really didn't take much because all the signs were there. And it seems like you're someone that paid attention to all the signs. I think sometimes we mistake compliments or when people have a request for us to do something, we mistake it. We just kind of overlook it, and we don't realize that's God speaking. Like, hey, there's gold at the end of this rainbow. This is actually a rainbow. There's a pot of gold here. So let's pay attention. Let's tune in and follow through, because I have something for you there. But I'm amazed, because there's no, it just required you to pay attention.
Right.
And that's what you decided to do. You pay attention to everything that comes your way. And when it revisits you again, you decide to, you had to embrace the shift and then move forward. But, okay. So what advice would you have to women who struggle to embrace that reality? Some women who may say, you know what, no, I'm a lawyer, or I'm an attorney. Let me say that, because I'm a lawyer, but not an attorney. So I'm an attorney, or I'm a doctor, or, you know, I'm a teacher, and this is what I do. Or better yet, I'm a homemaker, because that's still an occupation. Okay. All right. Managing a home is an occupation. All right. So I'm a homemaker. This is what I do. I can't combine my interests, or, you know, I don't have that permission. What would you encourage? How would you encourage those women that are still struggling around that?
I would say just basically stop and take a second. I'm such a writer as far as writing things down to see what aligns. So if you could take a second and list how work life, whatever it may be, and the things that you're passionate about, how they align, and figure out, oh, how could I make these things more convenient for me? Because that's how I look at it.
That's good.
Everything that I do is not inconvenient for me. Like, that's who does that?
I love her.
No, but that's good. That's good, because you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a doggy mom.
Yes.
You're active in your community. You are still involved with your sorority. Everything. You're a daughter. You have responsibilities. I love the fact that you said that. You need to look at list it all out, see how they align, and then think about how you can bridge the two in a convenient manner for yourself.
Right. If I can tell you the amount of days that I've been sitting in the dance studio lobby, weeding things for t-shirts, designing on my computer, and a mom comes up and goes, "You craft?" That's a customer right there.
Right there.
Wow.
Or my daughter is my model. Everything she has is personalized. Everybody knows her name, but that's how I practice. So every dance bag, every chair bag, a bowl, whatever it is usually pretty customized. And she'll tell people, my mommy did my shirt. She has a shirt like this that says, "Being a dancer is dope."
Yeah.
And her teacher uses the word, her hip hop teacher is always saying dope. And this is before she ever got in his class. And he said to me, "I need a shirt like that." So I told her, well, that'll be your Christmas present to him. And that's what she gave him. And this is a guy, like he just uses the word a lot.
Right.
So it's always, doing things to put yourself out there. Doesn't have to be huge things like we see in the news on social media, but figuring out how those things align. And I'm not in there looking for customers. I'm in there trying to figure out how I can get this done so that when I get home, I can spend time with my family versus have to be in here working all the time.
Right.
So
that's good.
You never know.
We have a question out here, and I think it's important. I'm going to share it here. So this is from Lori, and she says, "Can you share more about leaving traditional religion in the face of having dreams and aspirations, the shift in timing, and how things work together for you? Because so many of us are facing this." This is a word.
Yeah. Sounds like so much of what we've discussed already. So this is good. So Lori, I don't know who you are, but make sure you go back and listen to this podcast and digest it. But go ahead, Trina. I definitely want you to answer that.
So it was very hard. Anyone that knows me knows that I was 100% engulfed in my home church, the church that I grew up in. Everything. Choir, praise team, usher, office, anything that was going on, young adult ministry, director, everything. I was doing it. My mama is the same way. So of course, we as her kids, same thing.
The same thing, right.
But here's the other thing about being a therapist. Once you begin to get education and as you are practicing, you look at the world differently. And I just knew that something in me was stirring up that wasn't right. First of all, I was sitting in church and being on my phone. That's why. No, not going to do that. Or other things were just more important. I'm planning whatever I'm going to do this week or thinking about work. I wasn't really present. So that's why I said with my therapy brain, I know that anytime that I'm not present, I need to check myself. So it began to be like this internal conversation. What's happening? What's happening?
Wow.
And didn't really say much, was still going to church.
Yep.
Then kind of just was going, not all the time. Going only when I had to sing was what it became. And I was like, okay, yeah, this isn't good. This isn't good. So I remember talking to my husband about it, who was my fiance at the time. And he was kind of going through the same thing. He had just moved to Charleston, so he had left his home church. So that, we are like figuring out what we're going to do as a family. We're like, okay, well, we'll just start, looking for a church ourselves, and we'll begin to figure it out. Remember when I said I backed off of that? Yep, that was about 3 years. My daughter was born. His grandmother, literally months before her death, said to me, all I want y'all to do is make sure that baby knows Jesus. That's all she said. Okay, so I knew that I needed to move on something and begin to seek out what I needed. So it was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of, which is the new normal, a lot of online, because people were streaming back then.
Right.
I was stuck in I don't want to go to a big church because I went to an old country church. It was small. I knew everybody. So I had to break out of a lot of the traditions that I had in my head that, big churches, that things are corrupt. I had to do a lot of work. So it's very personal, I think, depending on what you are working on. And it's hard. And I had to face my mother.
Yeah.
Who could not understand. Other family members who could not understand. And I simply think when we are talking a spiritual journey, it's what you need. It's not our place to judge. You do what it is you need. Do the things that work for you, because if you continue to try to fight the shift, I'm gonna just say good luck.
You will not win this battle.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck. You will end up where you're supposed to go if you just allow it to happen and to be pushed in the direction that you need to go. And I mean, I go to a mixed, non-traditional, non-denominational church. It's definitely not where people thought I would be. Let me say that.
Wow.
But that's not for me to figure out or judge.
You embraced where you were transitioned. And something, Christine, you were about to say something real quick, because I'm about to. Okay, because
I'm gonna do the replay on this one.
Whenever I'm doing vision boarding workshops or vision workshops, that's what I really like to call them. One of the things I talk about is you will face dissonance when you sit down and really think about your beliefs and where they came from, because usually we don't consider the fact that the beliefs we're still holding on to are the ones that we received at birth. And we've learned from our communities. And so you always talk about alignment. One of the best things you could do is look at how the beliefs you have align with the scriptures that you practice, because you'll find that a lot of it is just tradition. Yeah. And if you can break free of the tradition, you'll feel the relief and the release and the peace to move forward into who you're designed and destined to become. If we don't feel the dissonance, if we don't experience that, like you said, it was uncomfortable. I had to face my mom, but you did it. Yeah. And you knew there was nothing you did in the process that was against scripture or disrespectful. What it did was it broke the expectations of others. And you decided to live for the expectations you had for yourself. You said, right, when you have knowledge, it's your responsibility to apply the knowledge to make your life better. Because in the process of making your life better, you're going to make somebody else's life better. And you engage in that process when you were charged with making your daughter's life better. Because your grandmother-in-law said, look, You just need to make sure that baby knows Jesus, right? This is your charge. This is your charge. So that's a great question. I love it. Thank you for being candid, because a lot of people just talk about the fact that they left the church. They don't talk about that process. And there's a lot of turmoil people experience when they let go of tradition, break norms. They don't meet the expectations of others, but there's a lot of freedom they experience. And you're living in what I would consider to be such freedom and peace that, you know, it provides you with the level of joy and comfortability you need to do the business to do the therapy, to do the private practice, to do the crafting, to be a good mom, to be a good wife. Like, it frees you up, because you're just living your truth.
Yep.
You know?
That's good. That's good. Well, we are over our time. That's okay, because this can go on for the rest of the day, for all I'm concerned. This is a lot to unpack, but I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Bring you back again, because there are so many things that I want to touch on.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm about to do a replay, and then but anyway, Katrina from Mass, you want to escort us out the room?
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Katrina, thank you so much for joining us. You know, Kingdom Kinesis is dope. Kingdom Movement is dope. I can't wait to see the show. Kingdom Movement is dope. All right, Kingdom Movement is dope. Doesn't have to be big moves. Doesn't have to be on a large platform. Just move. But Kingdom Movement is dope. And you know, it's so dope that we're gonna see you this coming Sunday at 3 p.m. Christina and I will be your featured guest. Kingdom Kinesis will be your featured guest. So we have not had the opportunity to introduce ourselves to you, who we are, so you can learn more about us, what Kingdom Kinesis is about, and why we are here. That is so important. So make sure you tune in so you can ask us those questions. We'll be interviewed by, we'll have a special guest coming to interview us, and we're excited about that. But we will be on next Sunday. So she's probably watching now. I'll call you shortly. But we look forward to sharing more of ourselves with you. Thank you so much for joining us. And in the wake, in light of everything that's taking place right now in the United States of America, make sure you partner with yourself and take good care of yourself. Try to do what you can to love yourself. Self-care is important, and wellness matters. So Katrina Bell, thank you once again for joining us. Until then, you're welcome. Until then, Kingdom Women, remember that you are essential. You are essential to the kingdom of God, and stay on the move.
Stay on the move. See you guys later.
See you.